But I had something she'd never understand. Legacy. Not the kind built with money, but the kind built with character. You see, when you spend your whole life being the helper, the giver, the quiet builder in the background, it's easy to feel like you don't matter. But the truth? You're the thread holding it all together. And one day, someone will finally tug that thread and realize the strength it took to never unravel. That's what was happening now. People I forgot I helped. People I never knew were watching. They were all coming back with the most beautiful sentence anyone can ever say. You made a difference. And, in those moments, I didn't care who didn't invite me. I didn't care who thought I was dramatic. I didn't care who laughed when I showed up in that limo. Because this was what I'd waited my whole life to feel. Seen. Valued. Loved. Not for what I did for others, but for who I had always quietly been. The invites started again. Not in the same way. This time, they were wrapped in sugar. Polite. Polished. Passive-aggressive. It started with a message from Amanda's best friend, Stephanie. Hey, Amanda's wondering if you'd be open to meeting. Things got weird, but she really wants to reset. You've both grown a lot. I didn't respond. Then a group email from Aunt Linda. We're organizing a family brunch for the holidays. No pressure, but it would mean a lot if you came. Let's put everything behind us. Put what behind us? The years of rejection? The humiliation? The silence? Then came the text from Amanda herself. Hey, can we talk? Just 3 words. No apology. No acknowledgement. Only a soft attempt at re-entry. As if the story had ended and we were due for a sequel. I didn't answer right away. In fact, I didn't answer at all. Instead, I sat on my balcony with a mug of coffee, breathing in the calm I had built around myself like a fortress. This peace? It didn't come easy. It came through ache, through crying on the floor of a 1-bedroom apartment, through building a name no one handed me, through becoming the kind of woman who didn't need applause anymore. A week passed, then a knock at the door. Not a metaphorical one. A literal knock. I peeked through the peephole, and my breath caught. It was Amanda, dressed casually, holding a small box in her hands. I opened the door slightly. Not to invite her in. Just to see. Hey, she said. Her voice was soft. I was hoping you'd be home. I didn't say anything. She looked down, then back up. Eyes unsure. I brought something. Just old photos, letters, stuff from when we were little. I thought maybe we could go through them. I didn't move. I didn't reach for the box. I didn't ask her to come inside. I just looked her in the eyes and gently said, no. A simple word. But in that moment, it felt like the most powerful sentence I had ever spoken. Her face shifted. Not in rage. Not in tears. Just realization. Oh, she whispered. I guess I had that coming. I didn't nod. I didn't confirm it. I just stood there. She held the box awkwardly, then placed it on the ground by the door. If you ever change your mind, she trailed off. Anyway, congratulations on everything. You proved me wrong. I raised my eyebrows slightly. It was never about proving you wrong, Amanda. She swallowed. I stepped back and quietly closed the door. I leaned against it, heart racing. But not from anger. Not from hurt. From strength. Because for the first time ever, I had chosen myself without explaining why. I didn't open the box. I left it there for a day, maybe 2. Generational. Just be kind, Ellie, she'd whisper in the car after every gathering. Don't stoop. Don't chase. What's real will rise. I believed her. I held her words like scripture. Even when Amanda rolled her eyes at me in public. Even when Aunt Karen once said, at a full family dinner, Ellie's just more of a behind-the-scenes kind of girl. No one flinched. No one corrected her. Even I laughed. Amanda bloomed faster than any of us. By 16, she was interning at a local fashion boutique, had thousands of Instagram followers, and was already being scouted for reality TV auditions. Her parents bought her a red convertible for her 17th birthday. It was parked outside the venue where they hosted a birthday gala that looked like a wedding, catered, with a DJ, balloon wall, and monogrammed gift bags. I gave her a sketchbook I'd saved up for with part-time tutoring money. I loved art, and I thought maybe, just maybe, she'd want to sketch her future designs. She never opened it. When I saw it 6 months later, still wrapped, shoved behind her bookshelf, I said nothing. Just smiled. Again. After high school, Amanda moved to Los Angeles. I stayed home, enrolled in a local college, and took night shifts at a diner to help pay for tuition. I studied tech and business development. My dream wasn't loud, but it was mine. I wanted to build something. I didn't care about red carpets or brand deals. I wanted stability. I wanted purpose. I wanted the kind of life where my name didn't have to trend to matter. But every time I brought it up around family, the responses were polite at best. "That's great, Ellie," someone would say, already turning to ask Amanda about her latest video shoot. When Amanda flew home for the holidays, Aunt Karen threw parties in her honor. She once referred to Amanda's return as welcoming royalty. I spent the whole night helping in the kitchen. Not one person asked about my classes. There was a Christmas 3 years ago now when everything shifted. Amanda had just gone viral for a makeup tutorial that featured her doing her routine while crying real tears. She said it was about authenticity. Some people mocked her. But the views soared. Sponsors lined up. She walked into the house with new cheek implants and a 6-figure brand deal. And I had just gotten a full scholarship offer from a tech startup incubator in San Diego. One of the senior advisors said I had the cleanest, smartest app prototype he'd seen in 3 years. I had 3 interviews lined up in January. I was glowing. Not glamorous, just glowing. I tried to tell my family, and I watched the light die in their eyes the second Amanda interrupted with news of a sponsored trip to Bali. Aunt Karen squealed. Someone popped champagne, and my mom, bless her, just squeezed my hand under the table and whispered, "Your time is coming." But something cracked in me that night. Not out of jealousy, but clarity. I saw, maybe for the first time, that I could run myself ragged trying to be seen and it still wouldn't matter in this family. Not unless I played the part. And I wasn't willing to. Fast forward a year, I launched my first solo project, a virtual workspace app designed for women entrepreneurs. It was clunky at first, but I kept building, learning, improving. Within 6 months, I got a call from a mid-tier investment firm out of Boston. They wanted to buy the rights. I negotiated. I got advisors. I stood my ground. At 25, I sold my app for $840,000. Not life-changing in Silicon Valley terms, but to me, it was freedom. It meant no more ramen dinners. No more scrubbing booths at the diner at midnight. No more apologizing for taking up space. It meant I could move, travel, build the life I wanted. I didn't post about it, didn't throw a party, but I did buy a little townhouse near Berkeley, painted the walls sage green, framed a photo of me and my mom in the hallway, and I sent Amanda a silent message in the form of not telling her. So when the original baby shower happened and I wasn't invited, it didn't break me. It just confirmed what I'd known for years. I would never be welcome at that table unless I came small. And I wasn't small anymore. But let me tell you something about quiet girls. We don't stay quiet forever. We rise. And when we do, it's not with noise, it's with presence. I didn't show up to Amanda's second baby shower to prove anything. I showed up because I could. Because I wanted to look into the eyes of the people who once saw me as disposable and remind them, without a single word, that I was still here. Not seeking approval. Not begging for a seat. Just standing. Whole. Unapologetic. And unforgettable. It started with a Facebook post. Aunt Karen had tagged everyone in a pastel pink graphic that read, "Amanda's baby shower. Round 2 now that baby girl's here." I remember staring at it on my phone for a full minute. The event banner had flowers, golden sparkles, and a cute little pacifier emoji. Underneath it read, I scrolled through the guest list. Everyone was invited. Cousins I hadn't heard from in years, distant aunts, even family friends I hadn't seen since high school. Everyone except me. No tag. No invite. Not even a passive mention. I blinked. Checked again. Reloaded. Nothing. It wasn't an accident. It was intentional.
And worse?
I saw Amanda's comment under the post. Can't wait to celebrate with my favorite people. You all mean so much to me. Favorite people. I laughed out loud, short and bitter. The kind of laugh that feels more like choking. That evening I called my mom. She was quiet for a long time. Then finally she said, maybe they just assumed you're too busy. Maybe they thought it would be too far for you. I could hear it in her voice. The same ache I felt. The same helplessness she'd carried for decades. My mom knew exactly what was happening. But she'd learned, long ago, that confronting the Monroe Winters women never ended well. Mom, I said gently, it's not about the distance. It's about the choice. She didn't answer. But I heard her exhale, long and shaky, like she was holding back her own grief. 3 days later, I got a message on Instagram. It was from one of Amanda's childhood friends, Lila. We weren't close, but we had mutual respect. She was warm.
Kind.
We'd volunteered together once during a toy drive. I always remembered that about her. Her message read, Hey Ellie, I feel weird sending this, but I wanted you to know I overheard something while helping plan Amanda's shower. I asked why you weren't on the list. Your aunt said something like, Ellie's not really part of the circle anymore. Amanda laughed and added, Yeah, she's doing her little app thing. Let her live her startup fantasy. Just thought you should know. You didn't deserve that. I stared at the screen. Not part of the circle. Doing her little app thing. They weren't just excluding me. They were mocking me. Dismissing everything I had built. Everything I had become. Not even to my face, just in passing. Like I was some old story they'd grown tired of pretending to care about. And yet, as angry as I felt, I didn't respond with rage. I didn't cry. I didn't scream or spiral or write some long, righteous email. I just sat there, still, and I felt something shift inside me. It wasn't sadness. It wasn't even disappointment. It was clarity. I saw it all, sharp as a scalpel. These people had never seen me. Not really. And they never would. But I would never forget myself again. That same night, I texted my driver, the one I'd worked with for corporate events in the past. Any chance you can get me a black limo next Saturday? Something tasteful but powerful. He replied within minutes. Absolutely. Pickup time? 1:40 p.m. I typed. Spring Hill Winery. I won't be staying long. The day of the baby shower, I wore a sleek, fitted ivory dress, the kind of outfit that whispered elegance instead of shouting for attention. Pearl earrings.
Clean bun.
No labels. Just power and silence. The limo pulled up right on time, gliding past a line of sedans and compact SUVs. I stepped out slowly, my heels clicking against the pavement, and watched as heads turned. At first, no one recognized me. Then came the double takes. A cousin nudged her friend. Aunt Karen actually gasped. And Amanda? Amanda's face did something I'll never forget. She smiled, wide, false, camera ready, but her eyes? They flickered. Just for a second. A tiny spark of fear. Or maybe confusion. Like she couldn't figure out what I was doing there, or how I'd managed to look like I belonged somewhere she didn't control. Ellie, she said, finally. I smiled. Hi. A long pause. Then she blinked hard, that signature scoff smile sliding into place. Did you get an invite? I don't remember seeing your RSVP. There it was.
The test.
The moment she expected me to shrink.
To apologize.
To explain. But I didn't. I tilted my head slightly and said calmly, No. But I figured family, right? Silence rippled. You could feel the discomfort cling to the air like humidity. Amanda's hand tightened around her mimosa. Well, it's kind of intimate, she said, laughing too loudly. We wanted it small this time. You know how these things get. Totally, I nodded. I just wanted to drop this off. I handed her a small, cream-colored envelope. She opened it on instinct. Inside was a check, $10,000. Not flashy. Not a brag. Just a gift. For the baby. For the future. For the sake of giving what I always had even when it went unseen. Amanda blinked at the number. Then back at me. You didn't have to. I know, I interrupted gently. I wanted to. Then I turned, walked calmly back toward the limo. My heels echoed across the garden stones. I didn't look back. No one chased me. No one asked me to stay. And that was the most beautiful part of all.
Because I no longer needed them to.
When I got back into the limo, I asked the driver to take a longer route home. Not because I wanted to be seen, but because I wanted to feel the silence. Not the kind of silence that comes from being ignored, but the kind of silence that comes from choosing peace. I rolled the tinted window down halfway, rested my head against the cool glass, and just let the wind move through my fingers. There was no music, no phone buzzing, no need to explain anything to anyone. For the first time in my adult life, I felt like I didn't owe the world a performance. That evening, I opened my laptop and went straight to my budgeting dashboard, something I hadn't touched in months. I looked at all the automatic payments I had set up over the years. $250 monthly for Amanda's student loan, still on autopay. $600 every 3 months to Aunt Karen's church fund, set up back when I thought it helped build goodwill. A recurring DoorDash account I had created for my grandmother, who'd passed 2 years ago, and somehow my cousin Jonah had taken over the login and was still using it. I clicked cancel on every single one. Not in anger. In clarity. I went through my contact list. Unstarred names. Unpinned messages. Deleted threads that had gone unanswered for too long. Amanda.
Karen. Jonah.
Olivia. Even Uncle Brad, who only ever texted when he needed to borrow a luxury SUV for a business dinner.
Gone.
Then, I changed the settings on my LinkedIn. No more open to networking. No more here to support fellow founders. No more pretending I wanted to help people who wouldn't have returned a phone call 5 years ago. On Instagram, I didn't unfollow anyone, but I muted a lot of them. Silence. Not shade. Not drama. Just distance. And then I did something I hadn't done in years. I booked a solo weekend trip. No itinerary. No +1. No planning for everyone else's preferences. Just me, a small villa in Sedona, a journal, and the desert. The first night there, I sat on a little balcony overlooking a canyon dusted in twilight and wrote, "Today, I let go of the version of me who begged to be seen by people who refused to look. She tried her best, but I don't need her anymore." I closed the notebook, placed it under my seat cushion, and didn't look at it again the whole trip. It wasn't about holding on to pain. It was about honoring the version of me who survived it. Back in the city, I changed the way I showed up in business, in friendships, even in how I walked into rooms. I started saying no, without the guilt hangover. No, I can't consult for free. No, I won't be attending that casual family dinner where I'm ignored for 3 hours. No, I'm not interested in mentoring your daughter, the same one who laughed behind my back 2 years ago. I stopped justifying my boundaries. They were no longer fences for protection. They were invitations for mutual respect. And something amazing happened. People started to notice. Not the ones I left behind. They remained silent. But new people. People with clear eyes and steady hearts. There was Isla, a new investor who'd heard about my startup through a podcast interview and reached out not just with funding, but with mentorship. "Ellie," she said over lunch one afternoon, "you have this calm authority, like someone who's been through fire and doesn't need to prove she survived it." I laughed. That's pretty accurate. Then there was Devin, a writer from LA who I met at a conference. He didn't try to impress me. He listened, asked questions, sent me a copy of a book I mentioned in passing, with a sticky note on the page that had moved him most. "I don't know your story," he'd said, "but I hope you write it someday." It wasn't romantic attention that changed me. It was respectful attention. The kind I had begged for from my own family for years.
And now?
I didn't have to ask. I didn't have to shrink, audition, or earn it. I just had to be. My phone buzzed one morning while I was in the middle of preparing for a panel discussion. It was a text from Amanda. Just one line. "Hey, any chance we could talk sometime soon?" I read it and stared at it for a while. Then, I did something revolutionary. Nothing. I didn't reply. Not because I was angry, but because I didn't need to reply. She had said I'd never make it.
I didn't need her to know I did.
The next day, my assistant asked if I wanted to update my website's About section. I said yes. I opened a blank document and wrote, Ellie Monroe is the founder of Glasslight, a tech startup that builds tools for human connection. Before this, she spent years trying to connect with people who never looked up long enough to see her. She doesn't do that anymore. 3 weeks after the baby shower, I received a LinkedIn message from someone I didn't know. The name was unfamiliar, Diana R., and the message read, Hi, Ellie. I don't know if you remember me, but I've wanted to reach out for a while. I recently learned something that made me realize I owe you a thank you. A big one. May I share? I hesitated. Usually, these kinds of messages were from people wanting investment advice or mentorship I no longer gave freely. But something in the tone, the humility, made me click reply. Hi Diana, of course. Happy to hear whatever it is. Less than an hour later, I got a voice message. She sounded nervous. Hey Ellie, I really hope this isn't weird. You probably don't remember me, but I was at New Horizons High with you. A year below you. Super quiet. Used to wear those terrible neon headbands and write poetry in the back of class. I smiled. I did remember. I was never part of the popular group, but I was friends with Amanda for a while. Mostly because I did her homework in exchange for protection. High school, right? She gave an awkward laugh. Well, fast forward. I became a nurse. Then, during COVID, I was transferred to a critical care unit. One day, this older woman comes in, super panicked about her mother, who had just had a stroke. And I recognized her voice. It was Amanda's mom, Karen. I sat up. Diana continued. She was frantic, rude, barking orders, trying to get a private room. But when I mentioned you just in passing, she froze. Like, completely. You know Ellie Monroe? She had asked. Yeah, I told her. She used to go to my school. Always kind. Helped me once when I fainted in the hallway. Why? She's my niece, Karen had said. But the way she said it, like it tasted bad in her mouth. Diana's voice softened. She didn't say anything else. But something in her face changed. Like, the world had caught up to her, and it was holding a mirror. The next day, Diana found me on LinkedIn. But before she messaged me, she did something else. She told the story, the hallway fainting moment, to her unit supervisor. Apparently, I had stayed behind one afternoon when everyone else had walked past Diana lying near the lockers. I'd asked if she wanted water or space. She said I had given her a granola bar and told a teacher, but never waited around for the credit. I didn't even remember it. But she had. And so did others. Because her supervisor reposted the story in a thread about quiet kindness during crisis. And that post got shared a lot. I didn't find this out from Diana. I found out from Forbes. A journalist doing a feature on women in tech who build with compassion had mentioned the post and included my name in a shortlist. I had no idea until I opened my email and saw, Hi Ellie, would love to profile you. Your story is the kind that changes minds. The irony? None of my family members liked or shared that feature. But strangers did. Thousands of them. Comments poured in from nurses, teachers, former classmates, even Uber drivers who said I'd left tips or said thank you when no one else did. It was overwhelming in the best way. Because for once, I wasn't being seen for what I'd achieved. I was being seen for who I'd always been. Then came the real twist. A mutual friend tagged me in a Facebook post. It was a group picture from Amanda's baby shower, one I obviously wasn't in, with a long caption about gratitude and chosen family. But what caught my eye wasn't Amanda or the decor.
It was a comment underneath.
From someone named Claire S. Interesting. Didn't she used to say her cousin Ellie would never make it? Pretty sure Ellie's company just hit $12 million valuation. I'd say she made it. Dozens of replies followed. People backing me up. Correcting the narrative. Some even questioning why Amanda had publicly excluded me when my own grandmother had once said I was the heart glue of our entire family. That comment came from an old neighbor, Ms. Jenkins, who had watched us grow up. And just like that, the illusion cracked. Not because I fought. Not because I exposed, but because people remembered what the family tried to erase. One morning, I got another text. This time from Aunt Karen. Just 2 words. They know. That was it. No explanation. No apology. Just panic disguised as confession. I didn't reply. Instead, I screenshotted the text and saved it in a folder I named When the Truth Spoke for Itself. I never planned to use it. I just wanted a reminder that some truths don't need our defense. They stand quietly on their own. That week, I bumped into a college friend at a gala. She was now head of operations at a nonprofit I admired. She leaned in and whispered, "You know, people talk about you now. Not in gossip, in respect. You're the one who didn't play dirty. You just walked and let the story catch up." I looked at her, a lump in my throat. "I didn't want revenge," I said. "I just didn't want to disappear." She smiled. "You didn't. You rose." I was sitting at my favorite rooftop cafe, sipping an oat milk latte and reviewing some design proposals for our upcoming launch, when my phone buzzed. Aunt Karen. After months of silence, not even a congrats when my Forbes feature came out, she was calling me. I let it ring.
Twice.
3 times. Eventually, I answered. Not because I wanted to, but because I was curious. What mask would she wear this time? "Ellie," she said, her voice strained and sugar-coated. "Hey, sweetheart. Been a while, huh?" I kept my tone flat.
Yes.
"It has." There was a pause. Then she dove in, like she had rehearsed the speech in front of a mirror. "I just wanted to say that things got a little out of hand. You know how people twist words. And Amanda, well, she's hormonal. She didn't mean to come across harsh." She exhaled heavily. "We were hoping maybe we could put all this behind us. Start fresh. Maybe have a family dinner next week. Start fresh?" As if the past decade hadn't happened. As if I was supposed to forget the eye rolls, the exclusions, the whispered jabs dressed up as jokes. "Amanda said I'd never make it." I replied calmly. "You said I was wasting my time with startups. Now you want dinner?" She rushed to respond. "Sweetheart, we were worried for you. You were so isolated, working day and night, investing everything. We just didn't want you to crash." "No," I said, my voice cool. "You wanted me to fail, so you wouldn't have to question why you never supported me." Another pause. Longer this time. Then came the next move. Manipulation, sugar-glazed. "Ellie, people are talking. Online. The comments, the shares. Amanda's friends are upset. Some of them think we were cruel. That's not fair." I nearly laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so predictable. It wasn't about me being hurt. It was about them looking bad. I cut to the point. "Are you calling to check on me? Or are you calling to manage optics?" "Ellie."
No.
"Really? Say it." She faltered. We don't want this to become a thing." I nodded slowly, staring out at the skyline. "You made it a thing the moment you decided my worth was conditional." I ended the call. Not with a dramatic speech. Not with tears. Just silence. Let her sit in it. Let her stew in the mess they made. Because I no longer owed her explanations. Over the next week, I received a flurry of outreach attempts. A Facebook message from Amanda's best friend. "Hey girl. Amanda's been really upset about how things turned out. She actually told me she misses you. Could we maybe meet for coffee?" A group email from my cousin Jason. "Family reunion next month. Would love to see you there. We can't let petty stuff come between blood." A DM from Amanda herself. Just one line. "We good?" I didn't answer. Because we weren't. And pretending otherwise would be betraying myself. Then came the ultimate insult. A forwarded message from a mutual friend. "Amanda's been telling people that Ellie's reaction was over the top. That she's bitter and holding a grudge." That broke me for a moment. Because even when I stayed silent, even when I refused to drag them, they still twisted the story. They couldn't stand the truth, so they painted over it with lies. But this time, I didn't stay broken. I got up. I closed my laptop. And I walked to the edge of the rooftop, where the breeze was strongest. I whispered to myself. This isn't about them seeing me. It's about me finally seeing them. That night, I received an email from Amanda's husband. Yes, him. A man I barely knew. It was long. And unlike the others, it didn't try to sugarcoat. He wrote, I know I'm probably the last person you expect to hear from. And honestly, I debated sending this. But I wanted to say, I've seen it now. What they did to you. What they said about you behind closed doors. Amanda included. You didn't deserve any of it. And I'm sorry I never said anything. I was a coward. They're scrambling now, not because they're sorry, but because you're respected.
Loved.
Seen. If it means anything, I just want you to know that I admire the hell out of you. You're the kind of woman I want my daughter to look up to. I read that message twice, then a third time. And for the first time in years, I cried. Not out of sadness, but out of relief. Because someone from inside the circle had finally spoken the truth. Unfiltered, uncoached, unapologetic. They could post all the curated pictures they wanted. Host all the fake family dinners. Spin whatever narrative made them feel clean. But I knew the truth. And now, so did others. When people finally see who you are, not because you shouted, but because you stood still, it shifts everything. The power dynamic flips. The need to explain disappears. You stop chasing closure. Because you become it. 2 weeks passed. The noise died down. The texts stopped coming. The calls fell silent. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I owed anyone anything. It was quiet, but not the kind of silence that hurt. It was the kind of silence that heals. No more defending my name. No more shrinking myself to be liked. No more seeking validation from people who only knew how to take. One evening, I was in my apartment, curled up on the couch with a blanket and herbal tea. The city lights blinked through my window as soft jazz played in the background. And then a notification. A message request from an unfamiliar name. Is this Eleanor James? I hope I've got the right person. I opened the full message. My name's Brielle. You probably don't remember me. We met years ago when you volunteered at St. Anne's Shelter. You brought coats and books, and you helped paint the girls' dormitory. My heart skipped. I was one of those girls. I was 14. You told me I was smart when no one else had ever said that. You showed me how to use Canva to design a flyer. I never forgot that. I just graduated from NYU with a degree in graphic design. I got a job offer last week. I'm emailing you because I saw your article in Forbes. And I screamed, You're her. You're the woman who believed in me when I had nothing. I just wanted to say, you changed my life. I never got to tell you that. But now I can. Thank you, Ellie. Thank you for being exactly who you are, even when no one clapped for you. I couldn't breathe. Tears slid down my cheeks. Not because I was sad, but because for the first time someone saw me for the right reasons. Not because of a fancy car or a headline. Not because of revenge or image, but because of who I was when no one was watching. I sat there hugging the message to my chest like it was a medal. Like it was the final confirmation from the universe that all my sacrifices hadn't been invisible after all. The next morning, I replied, Brielle, you just gave me back a part of myself I thought I'd lost. Thank you. You made me feel like it was all worth it. Please send me your portfolio. I'd love to mentor you, or even hire you for our next campaign if you're interested. Her response came back in minutes. I'd be honored. Truly. As we exchanged emails and portfolios over the next few days, I realized something profound. Every act of kindness, no matter how small, no matter how overlooked, plants a seed. And sometimes it takes years to bloom. But when it does, it changes everything. A week later, a letter arrived in my physical mailbox. Handwritten. From my old high school art teacher, Ms. Dorsey. She had always been the only adult who encouraged me back then, when I was awkward, underdressed, and unnoticed. Inside the envelope was a note. Ellie, I've followed your journey quietly through social media, articles, word of mouth. And I just want to say, I always knew you were destined for more. Not because of your talent, but because of your heart. Some people are born to shine alone until the world catches up to their light. You were one of them. I'm so proud of you. I sobbed. I held that letter like it was a hug, like it was everything I ever needed to hear from a mother, from a sister, from a friend. And then, one evening, another knock at kindness. I walked into a coffee shop for a casual meeting with a nonprofit director, someone I had briefly connected with online. When I introduced myself, she gasped, "Wait, you're the Ellie James?" I blinked, unsure what that meant. She smiled warmly. "A few years ago, I was in a really dark place. I read a blog post you wrote about resilience, about not being invited to family events and learning to find peace anyway. That post stopped me from doing something permanent that night. You didn't know it, but you saved a stranger's life." My hand trembled. I wanted to say something poetic, something profound, but all I could whisper was, "Thank you for telling me." Kindness, it turned out, didn't need a microphone. It echoed back on its own, at just the right time, from the right people, in the right way. Amanda had 1 million followers, a curated feed, brand deals. But I had something she'd never understand. Legacy. Not the kind built with money, but the kind built with character. You see, when you spend your whole life being the helper, the giver, the quiet builder in the background, it's easy to feel like you don't matter. But the truth? You're the thread holding it all together. And one day, someone will finally tug that thread and realize the strength it took to never unravel. That's what was happening now. People I forgot I helped. People I never knew were watching. They were all coming back with the most beautiful sentence anyone can ever say. "You made a difference." And in those moments, I didn't care who didn't invite me. I didn't care who thought I was dramatic. I didn't care who laughed when I showed up in that limo. Because this was what I'd waited my whole life to feel.
Seen.
Valued.
Loved.
Not for what I did for others, but for who I had always quietly been. The invites started again. Not in the same way. This time, they were wrapped in sugar. Polite.
Polished.
Passive-aggressive. It started with a message from Amanda's best friend, Stephanie. "Hey, Amanda's wondering if you'd be open to meeting. Things got weird, but she really wants to reset. You've both grown a lot."
I didn't respond.
Then a group email from Aunt Linda. "We're organizing a family brunch for the holidays. No pressure, but it would mean a lot if you came. Let's put everything behind us." Put what behind us? The years of rejection? The humiliation? The silence? Then came the text from Amanda herself. "Hey, can we talk?" Just 3 words. No apology. No acknowledgement. Only a soft attempt at re-entry. As if the story had ended and we were due for a sequel. I didn't answer right away. In fact, I didn't answer at all. Instead, I sat on my balcony with a mug of coffee, breathing in the calm I had built around myself like a fortress. This peace? It didn't come easy. It came through ache. Through crying on the floor of a 1-bedroom apartment. Through building a name no one handed me. Through becoming the kind of woman who didn't need applause anymore. A week passed. Then a knock at the door. Not a metaphorical one. A literal knock. I peeked through the peephole, and my breath caught. It was Amanda, dressed casually, holding a small box in her hands. I opened the door slightly. Not to invite her in.
Just to see. "Hey," she said.
Her voice was soft. "I was hoping you'd be home." I didn't say anything. She looked down, then back up. Eyes unsure. "I brought something. Just old photos, letters, stuff from when we were little. I thought maybe we could go through them." I didn't move. I didn't reach for the box. I didn't ask her to come inside. I just looked her in the eyes and gently said,
"No."
A simple word. But in that moment, it felt like the most powerful sentence I had ever spoken. Her face shifted. Not in rage. Not in tears. Just realization. "Oh," she whispered. "I guess I had that coming." I didn't nod. I didn't confirm it. I just stood there. She held the box awkwardly, then placed it on the ground by the door. "If you ever change your mind," she trailed off. "Anyway, congratulations on everything. You proved me wrong." I raised my eyebrows slightly. "It was never about proving you wrong, Amanda." She swallowed. I stepped back and quietly closed the door. I leaned against it, heart racing. But not from anger. Not from hurt. From strength. Because for the first time ever, I had chosen myself, without explaining why. I didn't open the box. I left it there for a day, maybe two. Eventually, I tossed it. Not in bitterness, but because I didn't need it to remember who I was. I didn't need evidence. Didn't need their approval. My life was the proof. My peace was the evidence. Later that week, I got one more message. From my mother. We hadn't spoken in almost a year. I miss you. Let's talk. This one hurt a little, because it came from the person I'd spent my whole life trying to impress, even if I never admitted it out loud. But this time, I didn't respond. I just placed my phone face down and returned to the warmth of my kitchen, where homemade soup simmered on the stove and jazz played on the speakers. I didn't need another confrontation. I didn't need one more fake hug. I didn't need a reset that came too late. I had outgrown that version of myself, the girl who begged to be chosen. Now, I chose myself. The final no wasn't loud. It wasn't cruel. It wasn't theatrical. It was gentle, peaceful, decided. And, for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty about it. Because you can forgive people without giving them access to your life. You can wish them well and still walk away. You can love someone and still say, "You no longer get to hurt me." The girl who once showed up in a limo to prove her worth? She didn't need limos anymore. She had worth simply because she existed. She didn't need invitations to feel included. She belonged wherever she went. And she didn't need apologies to heal. She had healed, all by herself. I used to think healing meant reconciliation. That for things to be whole, everyone had to come back around. They had to apologize. They had to admit it. They had to see what they did.
But now?
I understand something deeper, something quieter. Healing isn't about who sees you. It's about how you see yourself. And in the silence that followed every rejection, every slammed door, every party I wasn't invited to, I saw myself more clearly than ever. If you're listening right now, and this feels familiar, if you've ever been the one left out, the one whispered about, the one they said wouldn't make it, I want you to hear me. You do not need their permission to grow. You do not need their applause to be worthy. You do not need their kindness to learn how to be kind to yourself. You're allowed to walk away, even if they never chased you. You're allowed to stop explaining your worth to people committed to misunderstanding you. You're allowed to succeed, quietly, without spite, just because you can. There was a time I cried myself to sleep, wondering what I had done wrong. Why I wasn't enough. Why I couldn't be invited. Why my name wasn't mentioned. But now I understand, it was never about my value. It was about their limitation. Some people only love you when they feel superior to you. Some people only respect you when you stay small. Some people will never clap for you unless they feel responsible for your success. And the moment you grow without them, they call it betrayal. But it's not betrayal. It's becoming. I didn't show up in a limo that day just to be seen. I showed up because, deep down, I had finally chosen myself. Not for revenge. Not for spectacle. Not even for closure. But because I deserved to walk into any room, even hers, with my head held high. And you do too. Yes, you. You who stayed quiet all those years. You who worked hard and never asked for praise. You who gave and gave and gave until there was nothing left, only to be told it still wasn't enough. You don't owe them anything. Not your energy. Not your explanations. Not even your pain. So if today, you're sitting in silence, if you're watching them celebrate while you're still healing, if you feel like your time will never come, please hear me when I say,
It will.
Maybe not in a limo. Maybe not with cameras or claps. But your moment will come. And when it does,
It'll feel like peace.
not vindication. Not revenge. Just peace. You'll walk into a room. Or maybe into your own life. And something will click. You'll realize you don't need their approval. Because you finally have your own. And, trust me, that's more powerful than any apology. That's louder than any party. That's everything. So take this moment. Right here.
Right now. Breathe in.
let go. And say it with me, quietly or out loud. I am no longer waiting for them to choose me. I choose myself now. You're not too sensitive. You're not overreacting. You're not bitter. You're not dramatic. You're waking up. And sometimes, waking up means walking away. To anyone who's ever felt like the afterthought, like the backup plan, like the one they only remembered when they needed something, you deserve more. So much more. And I hope someday soon, you give it to yourself. Because the best revenge isn't proving them wrong. It's living so fully, so joyfully, so truthfully, that their opinions can't even touch you anymore. This isn't just my story. It's yours too. And hers. And theirs. And to every soul who stayed quiet for too long, this is your sign. You are always enough. You are always powerful. And now, it's your turn.